Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show, where you'll find health and fitness inspiration, motivation, and information shared in 15-minute episodes. Tune in while getting a move on to make leading and enjoying the benefits of a healthy lifestyle almost too easy. It's the Fit 15. And now your host, Catherine Basu.
Welcome to the Fit 15 podcast show. I'm your host, Catherine Basu. And today's episode of the Fit 15 is episode 98. Whether you have been tuning into the podcast from the beginning and have listened to all 99 episodes, because technically we also have an episode 000, or are just tuning in for the first time today, I greatly appreciate you for being a listener and hope you are enjoying the podcast and look forward to your feedback. Would love you to share an honest review on iTunes and or Stitcher, and want to invite you to subscribe to the show, because once we hit 100 episodes, which will happen later this week, which is going to be the end of June 2018 for those of you who are listening to this podcast not the day this has gone live and want to know what I'm talking about. But once we hit that 100th episode, we will take a break from season 1 and take some time in July of 2018 to regroup, listen to your feedback, review any notes you sent in about guests and topics you would like to have covered in season 2, and start back up for you in August of 2018. So if you have not subscribed and you are enjoying the show, you want to make sure you do so you don't forget to tune back in once we have that little break and then go live again. So subscribe, share a review. I want to give a shout out to our most recent reviewer, J Taylor 3117, who shared, "Love that you had Lauren Golden on the podcast. Since leaving my 9 to 5 to freelance full-time, I have lost all of my baby weight I gained. I'm able to get up during the day and work in my yard, take my kids to the park, and gain more time in my day by losing my commute. She is an amazing inspiration." Thank you so much, J Taylor 3117, for your review and love of Lauren Golden. I loved having her on the podcast and highly recommend moms who are new to Lauren to go and check out that episode. All right, so we're in episode 98, though. I should probably get back on track since this is a 15-minute or so podcast show. So who is my guest today? My guest today is Chef Shelley, who is the chef and owner of Elegant Eats personal chef service in the Dallas, Texas area. After getting too old and tired for restaurant and catering work, otherwise known as having children, she became a personal chef. The past 13 years have included cooking for professional athletes, billionaires, celebrities, and regular families who want to eat delicious, high-quality food but don't have time or the desire to cook. She's been featured on TV, in professional publications, and has received awards for speaking and food photography. She has served in community volunteer positions and on numerous nonprofit boards. She now focuses her time helping others to follow their passion of cooking and become personal chefs with her online Personal Chef Master course. Sometimes, Shelley even manages to make dinner for her family. Chef Shelley, I have to say that really slowly because it's been a big tongue twister for me when I've been practicing. Welcome to the Fit 15. I'm so excited to have you as my guest today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, you're a personal chef. I know a lot of people want to have a personal chef. What would be some tips, if we're not there yet, to help us get cooking in, for ourselves ahead of time and not feeling so overwhelmed in the kitchen?
Sure. Well, I know for me personally, it is just invaluable, not only time-wise, but health-wise, to have food ready to go. Otherwise, I like run to the grocery store every day and I'm trying to figure out what to make at dinner time, and it just seems to be a downward spiral. So there are like 5 tips I would say that even incorporate before you ever even hit the kitchen that can help you do food prep at one time and get you set up to have a really good week, at least as far as dinner time.
Love that.
So I think the first thing and the absolute core is that you really have to pick the right recipes, because if you're going to try to cook a bunch of food at the same time, of course, you still want it to be as fast as possible, But a lot of times quick recipes are hands-on the entire time. So if you're doing a 15, 20, or 30-minute recipe, you're like, this will be really fast. I could do a bunch of these back to back, but it's actually a lot of work. And
Right.
you can't start doing them at the same time because they're all really hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing I like to do is choose recipes that have either different appliances, like one goes in the slow cooker, one goes in the oven, one goes, a quick saute on the stove. And that way you can get them all going together and it actually ends up being faster.
That's pretty good. I would not have thought of that.
And another thing is, it's great if you want to, make an elaborate dinner that's going to take an hour or so just to get everything ready to go. But if you're going to cook multiple things and batch cook at the same time, you definitely want to choose recipes that are low prep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you probably don't want to do it all the time, but there are a lot of recipes where you just put everything in the slow cooker at one time and turn it on.
I do like those recipes.
Yeah. So that's a great one to do because it only takes you, 5 or 10 minutes just to put all the stuff in there. And then you can use some time to do another recipe and then you have 2 ready to go. And especially if you're doubling them, that's a lot of servings that you'll have ready to go.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And if you don't have a whole family who's going to eat all that, freezing them in individual portions, then you can use them whenever you need them.
Love that. And I have a quick question for you, because sometimes I'll get a book or a magazine that has things coded by if they're freezer friendly or not. How do we know that if we're making what are some things that should not be frozen or can be frozen or
Sure.
the rest of us that don't understand that?
Well, in reality, everything can be frozen.
Okay.
It just depends on the changes that'll happen, whether you're still going to enjoy it as much after.
Right, right.
So
okay.
The main things that they, in quotes, say not to freeze are things with cream.
Okay.
Which that's...
Hi friends, it's Catherine, and if you are joining us for an out and back walk that is 15 minutes in length, that is your halfway point reminder. We're 7.5 minutes into today's episode. You want to turn around now. All right, back to Chef Shelley.
Probably not a daily food for most people anyway. So if it's going to be a special dish you're making, you're probably not going to need to freeze it. But cream will just separate. So it'll just get a little lumpy and you probably don't want that. It's everything that happens to stuff would be textural like that. Like cooked potatoes, if they're just like steamed plain potatoes, can get, the texture gets a little funky. Mm-hmm. Vegetables will definitely get softer. So if you want to freeze vegetables, if you're just doing them as a side dish, I would even recommend, if you like frozen vegetables, just doing your little entree and putting a portion of frozen vegetables on the side and just keeping them frozen.
Okay.
And putting them together.
Got it.
But if texture's not a big deal for you, it's still going to taste good. So freeze anything you want to.
All right. Okay. Well, I like that insight. So I'll let you get back to your tips.
Okay. Let's see. I'd say the second biggest thing would be you have to use a grocery list. I mean, that's great if you know what you're cooking and you've made it a million times and you're just going to fly through the store, but keeping a grocery list will keep you going through the store faster. You're not going to impulse buy a bunch of stuff. And most importantly, you're not going to forget anything that you have to have for your dish. And even if you just forget something that it's not critical to the dish, it might not taste as good because it might have been important and you're not going to enjoy it as much.
Right.
And I'm sure we've all made things that then we decided we didn't want to eat.
Yeah.
So you want to do everything you can. So just that little bit of planning helps the cooking and the enjoying go a lot faster.
Got it.
And also, as far as the grocery store, it can save you just ginormous amounts of time going at the right times. Because the worst times to go to the grocery store are late afternoon and evening on a weeknight, because everybody's stopping after work and it's just crowded and crazy.
Yep.
And also afternoons on the weekend. It's a combination of people just wandering around who are looking for something to enjoy for a weeknight dinner, and people who are coming down from the mountains and buying 6 months of food, and the lines at the cashier are long, and it's harder for you to get through quickly. And nobody really wants to spend that much time in the grocery store. Not even
right. Right. No, that's a good tip.
Yeah, so you have to choose the right recipes, use your grocery list, do your shopping at the slow grocery store times, which the best one is first thing in the morning. I like to, during the school year, drop the kids off at school and go straight to the grocery store. There's nobody there. I get in and out. There are actually people available to answer questions. It's just,
right.
Crazy. So as far as the actual cooking, when you're batch cooking multiple recipes at the same time, start with the recipe that takes the longest to cook first, because that gives you the time while it's cooking to do other recipes. So before you do anything else, you want to preheat the oven if you're using the oven. Or if you're going to use the slow cooker, put the stuff in the slow cooker right away. And then you can focus on, like, if you're putting a dish in the oven that's going to take 45 minutes to cook, you put it in the oven and then you have 45 minutes and you can probably cook a whole nother dish or two just while it's in the oven.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally, a big myth about cooking, and you see this a lot in magazines and cookbooks, and it's really a shame, is that they all say to do mise en place, which is a French term for getting all the food prepped, all the veggies cut up the way, all the spices measured out, everything done, and then starting to cook. Well, in reality, there's only 2 times you ever want to do that. One is if you're cooking in a restaurant, and I'm assuming most of us are not. I am not.
Yeah.
So that's totally irrelevant for the home cook. The only time I actually like to do it at home is for baking, because baking, you need the precision of how things are measured, and you need the timing. Like when you start adding your baking powder and soda and stuff, things need to move. So you need to be ready with it. But other than that, there are very few dishes that you save time by doing that all ahead of time. Because again, if you are starting off a dish where you're sauteing some onions and garlic, put them in the pan and get them sauteing, and then prep the next thing. Because otherwise you've got everything prepped and you're going to stand there and watch the onions get soft and translucent for 10 minutes. And so it's just really doing all your prep ahead of time is not a time saver. But what is a time saver is get everything you need out. Get all your ingredients out of the refrigerator at one time, get all your stuff out of the pantry and put it there, so that you're not looking at your recipe, going in the pantry and getting something, looking at your recipe, going back to the pantry and getting something, going back to the refrigerator 5 times.
Right.
That's another thing that can actually save you a lot of time, is just getting it all out.
Very good. Well, I love these tips. They're definitely ones that I have not followed in the past. So they might seem like, I mean, when you're saying like, oh, these are kind of common sense, but didn't really, especially with the quick and easy recipes, like you said. I mean, you're right. Having things spread out more could actually be more helpful than the hands-on quick and easy recipe, right?
Yeah, like a stir fry is really quick to cook, but it can take a lot of prep to cut up all your vegetables and all your proteins. Whereas, like I said, if you're throw one in the slow cooker, prep one and put it in the oven, and then do a stir fry, and then you've used all that time.
Yep. No, that's cool. Very, 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 very good. And I know, well, I guess one thing I'd mention too for people listening, because I try to get people to do this for their fitness routines, but a lot of these tips are all about kind of being strategic and having a plan, right? So it applies to our cooking too.
Yes.
For the success there. So I love that crossover. And then you said that you have a little free gift for us to go check out, so that even though we heard all this and it sounds all good hearing it, they'll be able to check this that out and have a reference.
Yeah, I don't know about your listeners, but for me, I'd listen to it and go, yeah, that sounds great. And then I would see something shiny and I would go off after the next thing and I would forget all about it. So
Yeah.
I have a guide made up. It's a PDF, how to cook like a personal chef and eat like a client. And it actually walks you through doing 3 recipes at the same time, all the way from choosing them to going to the store to getting them prepped and cooked. And it goes a little bit deeper than this, and it includes 3 recipes that you don't have to use at all, but if you really want it all laid out for you, that's all right there too. And it really gives you a thorough go through so that you can go through the process and get a better understanding.
Yeah. No, it's super cool. And so we'll have a link for that. And then where else can people go to find you? I'll put all this in the show notes too, but just so they can hear it one time.
Sure. I have a recipe blog at chefintheburbs.com,
Mhm.
and there are quick recipes. There are 15, 20, 30-minute recipes. There are also slow cooker recipes, pressure cooker recipes, all sorts of different things that are a great foundation for you to, or just try something new and add to your regular rotation.
Love that. I definitely need to check that out. We have a pressure cooker that maybe has been used once or twice since we got it for our wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. And pressure cookers are another great appliance that helps you do an extra dish at the same time.
Mm, so using those appliances, yeah, I like that. I like that tip.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks so much, Shelley, for joining us and being our guest and helping us, use these tips to eat a little healthier, while we're cooking at home.
Yeah, you're definitely welcome. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Fit 15. For show notes and more, visit fitarmadillo.com/podcast. See you next time.
Hi, friends, it's Catherine, and I wanted to pop back on the show here briefly for a couple of reasons. Number one, to remind you to subscribe to the podcast because we're just 2 episodes away from our last episode of season 1. So, subscribing is going to make sure you are reminded when we go live again in August of 2018 with our new season. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, do that. If you haven't, email me with your ideas or requests for guests and topics you would like me to cover. I would love to have you do that so I can make sure that you are excited about tuning back in August after subscribing. The best way to get in touch about the podcast is to email podcast@fitarmadillo.com. And then the final thing I wanted to let you know is that while we won't be releasing new episodes in July, we're obviously going to be working on the podcast because I have to record episodes, or maybe that's not so obvious, but we will be doing that. But the other thing that we'll be doing is taking some time to do some fun things over at Fit Armadillo, which is my fitness company and the sponsor of the Fit 15. So if you haven't checked out Fit Armadillo yet, I invite you to do so just because they're our sponsor and we love them. And also because in July we are offering some small online group fitness classes, which you are invited to try out to keep up with your fitness routine and stay motivated even when we aren't releasing new episodes. So one thing I wanted to share, if you are interested in those classes, is that I did mention something special for podcast listeners in the episode I recorded earlier this week with Lisa Patton. So if you missed that episode, it's the episode where she talks about her triathlon. Head on over to check that out and see if you can find the secret thing I shared in that episode that will help you enjoy our classes. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the show. I really appreciate you. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow if you subscribe, and look forward to your ideas on future guests and topics to cover on the Fit 15 in season 2. Bye.